curveball. Why aren't we getting forward guidance? Do we need forward guidance from this company that was paused during COVID?
We should, but as we heard, there are so much of things that's still uncertain about the supply chain, about openings in China. But I was very happy to hear the comments that came from Emily, because I went into the quarter a lot more pessimistic than most people, because I thought because of the consumer slowdown, because of China, because of Europe, we will not likely to see this kind of a beat that we saw, at least going into next quarter.
Of course, Tim Cook talking about macroeconomic headwinds hurting the third quarter, expecting revenue to accelerate in their fiscal fourth quarter despite some softness. Anurag, where do you think has been firing on all cylinders? Clearly, the iPhone has been. It was notable that there wasn't much to be buying in their third quarter, fiscal third quarter, in terms of new products. So are you hopeful for the innovation to come?
Yeah, but in the case of Apple, a lot depends on the iPhone cycle, and largely because, as your guest previously alluded, it is the biggest portion of revenue for them. So the smaller products really don't move the needle as much. It's really at what pace do people upgrade their iPhones, and it's going to be fun because in the next quarter we're going to see a brand new version come out, and that's going to set them up for a nice holiday season too, assuming that the macroeconomic conditions globally don't get worsened from here.
Hey, Anurag, what is the most surprising part of Apple's report here?
To me, the comments about supply chain, because I really was going into the quarter thinking that supply chain actually worsened during the quarter because of COVID restrictions in China, and the parts weren't available or the assembly wasn't available. That was my thought process going in. But based on Emily's comments, it looks like things eased up a little bit. Now, that to me is the number one positive announcement that came out of this release.
Are there also some signs here that some of the headwinds that they had faced are now really starting to come down? You have Tim Cook saying that he expects revenue to accelerate in the fourth quarter despite some softness, he says. So have they turned a corner in many ways?
So the way I think about it is, we were expecting, acceleration in the next quarter on a constant currency basis. We were expecting a headwind because of currency, but I don't see them going into double-digit revenue growth again over here. I think even if there is revenue acceleration, it's still going to be single digits, and in fact, it's possible that services growth may slow down even more going into that the next quarter. But overall, I can't find that many mistakes at this point, largely because of the supply chain issues.
Anurag, how should we think about the iPhone upgrade cycle in a time when consumers are paying so much more for gas and so much more for groceries? They're not necessarily, in my mind, going to switch out of the Apple ecosystem and go to an Android phone, but does it mean they hold on to their iPhone 10 or iPhone 11 for maybe an extra year?
Yeah. Tim, I did see your question, for the previous guest also. But, unlike the other retail world where you can, water down and go to a discount store and buy things, you're not going to give up your phone and go to an Android. And I think the same is case for a Samsung high-end user. You're not going to leave Samsung and go to an Apple phone. But frankly speaking, what happens is the Apple has such a massive installed base of iPhone users that let's say that number is closer to 800 million units. Every year, and the average life of refresh cycle is about 4 years. So every year, they're going to sell about 200 million units anyway. It's a question of, in really good times, they're going to sell a little bit more, and bad times, they're going to sell less. So yes, you can push the cash flow out by a few months, but that doesn't change the fact that whenever you upgrade, you're still going to stick with an iPhone.
Anurag, I don't really like all the comparisons to Androids and Samsung. Some of us still enjoy some BlackBerries every now and then as we think about the pivot to the iPhone. But we'll get serious.
You're the only one, Taylor.
And stay serious with you for a moment.
We've all pivoted.
Neutrality. How do you think about a company generating $23 billion in operating cash flow, the use of cash that comes from that as they try to maintain the cash neutrality?
Yeah, I have made the argument that they should actually buy back far more shares in this environment when they are depressed because of the ongoing macro conditions. But the share buyback was in line with what they have done in the last couple of quarters, so not much there. But I really hope that they accelerate that plan because, as you said, they are so far away from that cash neutral position that they can easily go another 30-40% without a problem.
All right, so Anurag, based on what we got from Apple, is this a company thinking about a recession? Because here we are when we talk about macro, recession, no recession. We got the disappointing GDP. Based on what we got from Apple, is this a company that indicates maybe a recession is coming?
Now, I have been surprised. I've said there are 4 amazing business models that operate in the United States, and all 4 of them have reported really spectacular results over the past few days. Apple is a brand that envious to any company from any country. So I really think I think they've turned a corner over here, but not because of so much of demand issue, but because of supply chain issues.
What about Anurag, the services number? Help us read into that, Miss.
Yeah, I mean, it is double digits. It is really facing tough comparisons. It is not easy to come up with double-digit growth in that area for a very long period of time. We saw some really strong numbers from the pandemic. It's only going to get a little softer from here in our view, because you're not downloading as many games. You're not, payment volume's going to go down later. So the way I think they're going to expand that is they add more services. They add more, let's say, TV content and other things, because to me, that's really where the investment should go to, and, not in a car or anything, but we can talk about that later, because this is a very high margin business. These are, gross margins for services business is 70%. It is truly the right place to be.